One simple move after meals drops blood sugar by 52%. Doctor shows how. Deep within the intricate architecture of your lower leg, an unsung hero of metabolic health lies quietly, often overlooked and largely unknown. This discreet yet remarkably powerful muscle, the soleus, resides deep behind your shin bone, nestled beneath the more visible and commonly recognized gastrocnemius, the bulging calf muscle. You won't spot it flexing in the mirror, nor will you likely feel its individual contractions during your everyday movements. Yet this small, hidden powerhouse possesses an extraordinary physiological capability. It can actively and efficiently extract glucose directly from your bloodstream, bypassing the usual complex hormonal pathways that rely heavily on your pancreas. The implications of this inherent superpower are profound and have been rigorously quantified by scientific research. A peer-reviewed study, meticulously conducted at the prestigious University of Houston, provided compelling evidence, demonstrating that individuals who consciously engage this specific muscle while remaining seated, yes, simply sitting down, were able to dramatically reduce their post-meal blood sugar spike by approximately half. This remarkable intervention requires no demanding gym sessions, no restrictive dietary overhauls, and no pharmaceutical interventions. It's merely one tiny, deliberate movement performed right at your desk or on your couch. Once the elegant simplicity and potent efficacy of this mechanism are truly understood, you'll begin to reevaluate the pervasive afternoon slump, no longer attributing that dreaded post-lunch cognitive fog and energy drain solely to the natural process of aging or the caloric density of your recent meal. To fully grasp the origins of the common after-meal energy crash and the subtle yet potent solution, it is essential to first comprehend the fundamental role of glucose. Glucose, in its most basic form, is simply sugar, and crucially, it is the primary fuel source for every single cell within your body. This distinction is vital. Glucose is not inherently an adversary. Your muscles consume it for movement, your liver meticulously stores it as glycogen for emergency reserves, and your brain, the command center of your entire being, is almost entirely dependent on a steady supply of this vital nutrient. Deprive your brain of glucose for even a few minutes, and clarity of thought rapidly diminishes, giving way to confusion and impaired function. Therefore, glucose itself is not the problem. The core issue arises when an excessive amount of glucose floods your bloodstream too rapidly, overwhelming your body's immediate capacity to utilize it effectively. When you consume carbohydrates, found in ubiquitous staples like bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, anything sweet, and even many fruits, your sophisticated digestive system meticulously breaks these complex structures down into their simplest constituent, glucose. This glucose then enters your bloodstream, a perfectly normal and necessary biological event designed to fuel your existence. The real challenge emerges when this influx of glucose is both substantial and swift. Visualize a garden hose connected to a tap, with the water flow initially set to a gentle, steady stream. The water moves smoothly, the hose maintains its integrity, and everything functions as intended. Now, envision someone abruptly cranking that tap wide open, unleashing a powerful torrent. The hose visibly strains, bulging under the sudden pressure, its walls distended and stressed. This vivid analogy closely mirrors the physiological stress experienced by your delicate blood vessels during a sharp, rapid surge in blood sugar. Your body's internal monitoring systems detect this sudden glucose spike almost instantaneously, triggering an urgent message dispatched to your pancreas, a vital glandular organ conveniently nestled behind your stomach. The directive is straightforward: release insulin and release it with haste. Insulin, a crucial hormone, acts akin to a diligent delivery worker. Its primary responsibility is to diligently collect glucose molecules from the blood and transport them into various cells throughout the body, where they can be either immediately used for energy or safely stored for later. A portion of this glucose is directed to your muscles, while a significant amount is sequestered by your liver, where it is compactly packaged into glycogen, essentially your body's sophisticated emergency fuel reserve. However, this is where the plot thickens. If your muscles are already saturated with glycogen and your liver's storage capacity is fully maximized, and you happen to be lounging passively on the couch after dinner, your body is still compelled to process the remaining unutilized glucose. It doesn't simply discard it. Instead, with nowhere else to efficiently direct it, the excess glucose is converted and meticulously tucked away into your fat cells. Once this conversion and storage occur within adipose tissue, retrieving that energy for immediate use becomes a remarkably difficult physiological feat. Meanwhile, you're diligently working. Insulin has, in its earnest effort, performed its duty almost too effectively. It has cleared such a substantial quantity of glucose from your bloodstream that your blood sugar level drops precipitously, often falling even lower than its baseline level before you even consumed your meal. This dramatic descent is precisely what constitutes the infamous crash, the root cause of the debilitating symptoms described by millions of people daily. As your blood sugar plummets rapidly, your brain, which relies almost exclusively on glucose for its complex functions, enters a state of panic. It broadcasts an urgent alarm throughout your system. Energy reserves are critically low. Rectify this immediately. In response, a profound wave of weariness washes over you. Your cognitive faculties become impaired. Your head feels thick and cloudy. Your thoughts slow to a viscous crawl, and your eyelids grow heavy and resistant. And then, with an almost primal urgency, that very specific, undeniable craving for something intensely sweet, a decadent cookie, a tempting candy bar, a handful of chocolate from the office pantry, manifests itself. This isn't a moral failing, nor is it a deficiency in willpower or a weakness of character. It is a pure, unadulterated biochemical imperative. Your brain is simply executing its evolutionary mandate, protecting itself from the dire consequences of fuel depletion by vociferously demanding more. The scenario is clear. Sugar levels surged quickly, then plummeted equally quickly, leaving your brain in an energy conservation mode, prioritizing essential functions by decelerating anything deemed non-urgent. This is the physiological reality underlying that unwelcome wall you hit mid-afternoon. Clinical practice frequently offers poignant examples that perfectly encapsulate this metabolic phenomenon. Consider the case of Linda, a sharp and capable accountant, approximately 44 years old. Her mornings are marked by acute focus and efficiency, yet with almost clockwork regularity, every afternoon following her lunch, she invariably encounters a mental barrier. Her mind grows hazy, her ability to concentrate on the intricate columns of numbers before her utterly vanishes, and predictably, around 3 p.m., she finds herself drawn down the corridor towards the vending machine, where she purchases a chocolate bar. For countless years, Linda rationalized this behavior with the same familiar narrative. I just have an insatiable sweet tooth, or I simply lack discipline. However, this self-assessment was never the underlying truth of her situation. Her body, specifically her brain, was trapped in the repetitive cycle of the same biochemical roller coaster every single afternoon. The chocolate provided a fleeting surge, momentarily elevating her glucose, only for it to inevitably crash down again shortly thereafter. By 6 p.m., she felt utterly depleted, completely wrung out, despite her actual professional workload that day being entirely within her normal capacity. Linda wasn't genuinely exhausted from her work. She was experiencing the profound draining effects of a relentless blood sugar roller coaster, a phenomenon that no one had ever properly explained to her. And critically, every single one of these metabolic undulations imposes a significant physiological cost. Each sharp glucose spike compels your pancreas to unleash yet another burst of insulin, once, then twice, then 100 times, then 1,000 times over the span of years. And eventually, this relentless demand exacts its inevitable toll. If any part of Linda's story or the broader discussion of the blood sugar roller coaster resonates with your own daily experiences, consider hitting the like button. Your engagement helps ensure that others grappling with this precise pattern can discover this crucial information. The cumulative long-term damage stemming from this metabolic imbalance is a serious consideration. Your pancreas, contrary to popular belief, does not possess an infinite capacity or an endless lifespan for insulin production. It has a finite working life, and each instance of excessive insulin release, driven by rapid glucose spikes, contributes to its gradual wear and tear. Initially, the pancreas efficiently manages these demands with ease. However, over time, its responsiveness gradually diminishes. Concurrently, your body's cells, constantly bombarded by high levels of insulin, begin to lose their sensitivity to its signal, a condition known as insulin resistance. In simpler terms, despite ample insulin circulating in your bloodstream, your cells effectively cease to acknowledge its presence. It's like having the correct key, insulin, and the proper lock, the cell receptor, but the lock has become stubbornly jammed. To force glucose into the cell despite this resistance, your pancreas is compelled to produce and release even greater quantities of insulin, working progressively harder and harder, year after year, yet achieving diminishing returns. The insidious nature of this process is that, for an extended period, your routine blood work, the standard medical snapshots of your health, may still appear perfectly normal. There's no definitive diagnosis, no flashing red warning light on your medical chart. Yet, the pervasive fatigue is undeniably real. The insidious accumulation of belly fat begins to creep in, and the relentless cravings refuse to subside. You live with these persistent, troubling symptoms for years, unable to pinpoint any officially wrong diagnosis. It feels premature to consult a doctor because nothing is dramatically broken, but an unsettling sense of offness persists. Ironically, this precise moment, when official diagnoses are yet to manifest, represents the most opportune and easiest window of time to fundamentally reverse these metabolic trajectories. Another common pattern frequently observed in primary care settings illuminates the subtle onset of these issues. Picture Mike, a 52-year-old man, visiting his doctor primarily to complain about persistent back pain, an ailment seemingly unrelated to blood sugar, right? Yet, during the course of their conversation, Mike casually mentions that for the past 3 years or so, he has been experiencing a constant, almost insatiable hunger, even immediately after consuming a substantial meal. An hour later, the hunger pangs return with full force. His doctor, recognizing this subtle but significant cue, orders comprehensive blood work. Mike's fasting glucose results return at the very top of the normal range. While not yet qualifying as official diabetes and not even formally designated as prediabetes, to an astute and experienced clinician, that numerical value tells a compelling story. It indicates that Mike's pancreas is operating perilously close to its maximum capacity, its precious functional reserve steadily shrinking. The only reason this impending issue hadn't been flagged earlier was purely technical. On paper, every measurement still fell within normal parameters. If this insidious metabolic process is allowed to continue uninterrupted, insulin resistance inexorably progresses into prediabetes, and from prediabetes, the transition into full-blown type 2 diabetes becomes increasingly likely. Once type 2 diabetes is established, the severe and often debilitating complications begin to manifest. Widespread damage to your delicate blood vessels, progressive problems with your vision, compromised kidney function, and notoriously slow-healing wounds, particularly on the feet, which can lead to grave consequences. This is not presented as a sensational scare story. Rather, it is an accurate depiction of the medical realities that healthcare practices across the world, the United States, routinely confront every single week. However, there is profoundly good news amidst this stark reality. While your blood glucose and insulin related numbers remain within the quote unquote normal range, or even at the very earliest stages of deviation, this entire destructive cascade can be effectively halted, significantly slowed, and in a great many instances, comprehensively reversed. And the most powerful, accessible tool you need for this metabolic turnaround is far simpler and more intuitive than you might imagine. It resides within your own muscles. Within the intricate architecture of every single muscle cell, microscopic powerhouses known as mitochondria tirelessly operate. You don't necessarily need to memorize their scientific name. What truly matters is their vital function. These mitochondria behave like tiny, highly efficient furnaces, diligently drawing glucose out of your bloodstream, metabolizing it, and converting it into the essential energy required for both movement and the maintenance of body heat. When you are sitting in a state of complete stillness, these cellular furnaces are merely idling, running on a low pilot light, consuming minimal fuel. However, the precise moment a muscle begins to contract, these dormant furnaces instantly flare to life, dramatically increasing their rate of glucose consumption. Herein lies the truly fascinating aspect of this physiological mechanism. Under normal circumstances, glucose requires insulin to act as a specific key to unlock the cell door, allowing it entry. Without insulin, glucose remains locked out. But a working, contracting muscle possesses a remarkable backdoor. It has the unique ability to open its own cellular entryway, entirely bypassing the need for an insulin key. This represents a completely distinct and independent biological mechanism that is activated the very instant a muscle engages in contraction. Glucose flows directly from the bloodstream into the muscle cell without requiring any involvement from your pancreas. Consequently, your blood sugar levels drop naturally and smoothly, your insulin levels remain calm and steady, and the dreaded blood sugar roller coaster never even begins its ascent. This extraordinary mechanism fundamentally explains why the 90 minutes immediately following a meal constitute the most metabolically valuable window of time throughout your entire day. This is precisely when glucose levels are on the rise, and it is at this critical juncture that your muscles can seize that glucose directly, preventing it from being shunted into fat cells and preempting your pancreas from having to unleash another significant surge of insulin. So, which specific muscle performs this crucial task with unparalleled efficiency? This is where our hidden hero, the soleus muscle in your calf, re-enters the narrative with astonishing relevance. But first, a brief yet critical clarification. The scientific consensus on the direct link between muscle activity and blood sugar control is unequivocally settled. However, the efficacy of this strategy hinges entirely on consistent application. A solitary walk after a single meal will certainly benefit that particular meal, but it is the development of a daily habit, the consistent practice of moving after meals, that gradually, yet fundamentally, rewires your entire body's glucose handling system. Your cells progressively become more sensitive to insulin, your muscles develop a heightened hunger for sugar, and your entire metabolic framework undergoes a beneficial shift. The operative word here is unequivocally consistency, not necessarily intense effort or strenuous activity. Now, back to our remarkable muscle. On the posterior aspect of your lower leg, just beneath the knee, two primary muscles are stacked one upon the other. The larger, more superficial muscle you can easily see and feel, responsible for the visible bulge in your calf when you stand on your toes, is called the gastrocnemius. But beneath this muscle, deeper within the leg structure, lies the second, less prominent yet profoundly important muscle, the soleus. Most people are entirely unaware of its existence. It offers no visible presence in the mirror, and its individual contractions are generally imperceptible. And yet, Pound for pound, when it comes to its capacity for extracting glucose directly from your bloodstream, no other muscle in your entire body can rival its efficiency. A few years ago, researchers at the University of Houston orchestrated an ingenious experiment that captured considerable attention within the global scientific community. Their groundbreaking study, detailing the unparalleled efficiency of the soleus, was published in the prestigious peer-reviewed journal iScience in 2022. For the experiment, participants were instructed to remain seated in a chair and perform one deceptively simple movement immediately after eating, repeatedly lifting and lowering their heels while ensuring their toes remained firmly planted on the floor. This movement could be performed seamlessly while working at a computer, engrossed in television, or even conversing on the phone. No disruption to one's daily routine was necessary. The sole action involved the back of the foot. The resulting data astounded even the seasoned researchers themselves. The participants' post-meal glucose spike plummeted by an astonishing approximate 52%, and perhaps even more significantly, insulin release from the pancreas dropped by nearly 60%. This second figure is truly monumental, indicating that the pancreas was barely compelled to engage. The soleus muscle was extracting glucose from the bloodstream with such efficiency and speed that a substantial, potentially problematic insulin response simply wasn't required. You can readily experience this principle firsthand, even as you read these words. Plant both of your feet flat on the floor. Keep your toes firmly pressed down. Now, slowly and deliberately, lift only your heels upwards, then gently lower them back down. Continue this rhythmic movement, up, down, at your own comfortable pace, without rushing or exerting excessive force. This remarkably discreet exercise can be performed at your office desk, while lounging on the couch, or even in a bustling coffee shop, and it is highly unlikely that anyone around you would even notice. A dedicated 10 to 15 minutes of this specific movement immediately following a meal is sufficient to elicit a real, measurable, and beneficial difference in your blood sugar management. While the soleus reigns as the single most efficient tool for this purpose, it is by no means the only option. The more muscles you actively engage after a meal, including those in your legs, back, core, and arms, the greater the quantity of glucose that will be drawn from your bloodstream, and the faster this beneficial process will occur. Several other practical options exist, all of which can be seamlessly integrated into a normal day without requiring any specialized planning or major lifestyle overhauls. The first and arguably most classic recommendation is a simple walk after eating. A compelling study comparing two groups who consumed identical meals underscored its efficacy. One group remained quietly seated afterward, while the other embarked on a gentle 10-minute walk at an easy, unhurried pace. The walking group's blood sugar peak was approximately half that experienced by the sedentary group. We are not discussing an hour-long, high-intensity treadmill session, nor are we referring to rigorous interval training. Merely 10 minutes at an easy pace makes a significant difference. The specific route is inconsequential. You can step outside for some fresh air, walk laps around your living room while casually scrolling on your phone, or ascend and descend the stairs in your building a few times. The singular guiding principle is to engage in movement instead of remaining seated. The second highly effective option involves squats, and they tend to work even faster. The underlying reason is straightforward. Squats activate the largest and most metabolically demanding muscles in your entire body, specifically your powerful thighs and glutes. Bigger muscles mean a greater capacity for pulling glucose out of your bloodstream per minute. The technique for performing squats is equally uncomplicated. Stand tall with your feet positioned roughly shoulder width apart, your toes pointing slightly outward. Lower yourself down only as far as feels genuinely comfortable, without feeling compelled to reach parallel with the floor. Crucially, maintain a straight back and ensure your knees track in the same direction as your toes, preventing them from collapsing inward. Then, with controlled effort, push back up to the starting position. Aim for 10 repetitions, executed slowly and with deliberate control. A brilliant practical trick is to anchor this routine to a common household activity, such as waiting for your kettle to boil for after dinner tea. While the water heats up, perform your set of squats. This approximate time frame provides an ideal window to direct your post-meal glucose towards useful muscular activity. And finally, the most underrated yet incredibly accessible tool of all, housework. People inherently engage in household chores. The critical oversight is often when they perform these tasks, typically before eating or an hour or more later, by which point the post-meal sugar has already been routed to less desirable storage locations. The key strategic shift is to perform these tasks immediately after eating. A focused 15 minutes of tidying up after dinner is, in terms of its profound impact on glucose control, roughly equivalent to a brisk 10-minute walk. Wash the dishes by hand. You're standing and actively moving. Wipe down the kitchen counters. Sweep the kitchen floor. Put items back in their designated places. Your body is in motion, your muscles are engaged and working, and your precious glucose is being directed towards productive utilization. You don't even require extra motivation for these activities because they are tasks you were going to accomplish anyway. What makes these 4 simple tools particularly compelling is their inherent accessibility and ease of integration. You are not required to drastically rearrange your entire life around them. There's no need to wake up earlier, no expensive gym membership, which can range from $20 to several $100s a month, no requirement for specialized workout clothes, and no need to hire a personal trainer. All that is truly necessary is to simply refrain from sitting completely still for 10 to 15 minutes immediately after you eat. Or if sitting is genuinely unavoidable, then simply sit and discreetly wiggle your heels. That is truly the extent of it. There is one critical pattern within this discussion that warrants highlighting on its own. The rapidity with which insulin resistance can develop, and conversely, the speed at which you can effectively rebuild insulin sensitivity, is significantly influenced by your age. After the age of 40, a natural and gradual decline in muscle mass, a condition scientifically termed sarcopenia, typically commences if you do not actively engage in its maintenance. A reduced muscle mass translates directly into a smaller overall glucose disposal system within your body. A diminished disposal system, in turn, places a greater and more sustained pressure on your pancreas. And increased pressure inevitably amplifies the metabolic roller coaster, making its impact more pronounced and detrimental. If you're comfortable sharing, dropping a quick comment below with your age can be incredibly helpful for me to better understand our audience and how broadly relevant this vital topic is for individuals watching right now. To succinctly bring all these interconnected threads together, in the immediate short term, if you consciously begin to incorporate movement into your routine directly after meals, you will experience a tangible difference within a remarkably short period, often just a few days. That persistent post-lunch cognitive fog will begin to dissipate. Your head will feel noticeably clearer and sharper in the afternoon. Your energy levels will stabilize instead of plummeting abruptly an hour after eating. And that insistent, almost desperate craving for something sweet will gradually, quietly, but definitively begin to lose its powerful grip. In the long term, the impact of these simple habits is even more profoundly significant. You are actively performing an invaluable service to your body. You are systematically alleviating the immense metabolic load placed upon your pancreas. Every single instance where your muscles directly process glucose, bypassing the pancreatic demand, provides your pancreas with a much-needed reprieve. Over the span of years, these accumulating breaks for your pancreas add up to a substantial difference. This fundamental shift is precisely what distinguishes between maintaining robust metabolic health well into your 60s and 70s and gradually, almost imperceptibly, drifting towards the debilitating cascade of insulin resistance, prediabetes, and ultimately type 2 diabetes. Therefore, here's what is truly worth integrating into your daily practice. Become acutely aware of your activities during the first 15 to 20 minutes immediately following a meal. Make a conscious effort to try those seated heel raises at least once today, and carefully observe how you feel. It is also highly advisable to discuss your fasting glucose number with your doctor at your next scheduled appointment. And if your physician deems it appropriate, inquire about your hemoglobin A1C as well, which is a crucial blood test that provides an average snapshot of your blood sugar levels over the preceding 3 months. If you are currently taking any medications for blood sugar management, such as metformin, or utilizing supplements like berberine or magnesium glycinate for blood sugar support, these are absolutely critical conversations to have with your healthcare provider, who possesses a comprehensive understanding of your medical history and not with information gleaned from a YouTube channel. Take what is useful and resonant from this video, but always, without exception, run it past someone who knows your full health picture and personal medical context before making any changes to your health regimen. If you found genuine value and gained something meaningful from this detailed explanation, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel. Your support is instrumental in helping this channel continue to grow and reach more people with vital health information. Our current goal is to reach 300,000 subscribers, and every single one of you contributes significantly to getting us closer to that important milestone. For a more concise, practical takeaway version of this extensive discussion, you can scan the QR code displayed on your screen. That will lead you to my Telegram channel, where quick checklists, actionable summaries, and follow-up posts are regularly shared.